So it gives me enormous pleasure to say hello to Samuel, who has kindly given his time up this morning to come and chat to us about his incredible journey from being a graduate at Southampton University to heading up a £250,000 AI startup with his co-founder, Jamie Horsnell, who was a fellow graduate. So, Samuel, thank you so much for coming along today. And for the sake of everybody here today, can you just tell us a little bit of background about your journey, how you first got into AI because you were studying business at Southampton University, weren't you? And also that light bulb moment when you thought you had a really good business idea.
Thanks very much, Emma. Yeah, it's kind of a unique story and very happy to share it with everyone today. But essentially, Jamie and I, like one of my co-founders, were both at Southampton Uni together, and neither of us were in technical courses or particularly anything to do with software development, yet alone like AI dev stuff. So we were just doing our courses within sort of like business and economics, and Jamie was seeing these YouTube videos about basically the potential of AI, and this was like 2 years ago in our second year of uni. And we'd always been trying to start businesses before this. So there was a few other ventures that had happened, but not really taken off yet. And I was just sort of like Jamie spotting the sort of potential in AI and us moving to that direction that really took us to where we've ended up today, really.
Fantastic. So you were entrepreneurs by trade. So you're always looking for the opportunity to start a business, which is incredible. And talk to me about how you learnt about the capabilities of AI and the fact that it would potentially be a business.
Well, I don't know if our previous ventures would cast justify entrepreneurship status, but we were just always throwing ideas at each other before that and tried to get a few different things off the ground. But it was sort of just the potential of AI and innovation that we thought would could happen, that really got us excited about doing something in AI. And so we set up like sort of consultancy business where we were self-teaching AI, looking at how we could provide value to businesses with AI, not necessarily technically developing too much. And it was just sort of that process that led us to discovering a business that asked if we could support them using AI to write their bids, because it was, as anyone that's been involved in any sort of bid or tender process, is very painful and mundane process. So we had no idea what that was at the time. We literally were like, what even is this? And looked a little bit into it, thought it could be a scalable solution. And essentially, the last part of your question is we looked to bring on a technical co-founder. So a few months into the journey, bring in someone that basically could support with the actual development of the technical solution.
Brilliant. So your journey really came from somebody identifying a problem and then you building a solution to that problem, which sounds like the journey that you guys went on. And then you raised this £250,000 pre-seed as undergraduates, which is incredible. I think it was the largest amount that any Southampton University graduates had been awarded. Can you talk to us about that process and what key lessons you learnt from that?
Yeah, so it was the largest investment that like any undergraduates at the time, obviously, because we was obviously still studying, both in our final years at that point, because there's some amazing success stories of like postgraduates that have raised way more capital than that. And there's these two guys, just a bit of a complete tangent, but there's these two guys, Ben and Dom, that co-founded a business before they're a lot older now, but called Runner. It's called RUNNA. Got some people here might be aware of it, but they've recently exited the business to Strava, and they were two Southampton students. So it's like an incredible success story. It's like very inspiring. But times for us, basically a process like we never were particularly trying to raise any investment. we were just focused on building the product, improving it for the customers. We had some, I don't know, potentially naivety, but we were very desperate to get our product into the market as fast as possible. There's a few different reasons for that, I guess, but I think some of it definitely came down to naivety, or just somewhere between naivety and eagerness to be actually operating. So we took a very like basic product like MVP to market, and we're literally just trying to get customers, get in touch with as many businesses as possible. And I think that approach led us to gaining quite early traction. So we'd like picked up within the first 6 months, maybe like 5 customers or so. And then within a year, we were at maybe 20 customers. So that you, yeah, don't quote me on those numbers, but so that's sort of gist of what happened. And because we were like growing fairly fast and getting early signs of revenue, early signs of usage and customers and success stories with our bid writing software, a business pretty much like that was a customer. In fact, it was our first customer. Basically said to Jamie and I, "Are you guys looking for investment?" And we didn't really think anything of it. So then the owner of this business that was a customer of ours said to invited us down to London. Like we met up with for a meeting. We booked this literally like cheapest meeting room we could find in London, and then it was so small. And we met up with this guy there, and then he just pretty much offered us £100,000 as an investment. And like we literally had no idea how much he was going to offer us, or it's not really anything we'd ever looked or explored before. So we're pretty shocked at that. And then we were over the moon, super excited, really thinking that was incredible. Because obviously we're, 21 and 22 at the time. So still, obviously I'm still young, but super young at the time. And that was like quite exciting news. But then time went by and the investment never came through. And I was calling him. And it's sort of been a little while now. What's the sort of process to get this over the line? And literally, yeah, after a few months, this was in December, and after a few months, it got to maybe January, February, and he was saying, "Look, there's a big contract tender that we've won. It's going to cost some extra capital investment from my behalf as the owner. So I can now only invest half of the cash that I said I was going to." So then that 100K basically became 50K, which a few more months went by, and then that 50K became 15K. And then we were sort of, what, I don't think this is going to work. But we were like, maybe we could raise investment ourselves. So we went out over the next few months from, I don't know, early February through to like March when we got invested in, tried to raise the just straight from VCs ourselves, because we thought maybe we have got an attractive business for from an investment perspective. And that went successfully. We spoke with, I think, in part or on online, three different VCs. We got an offer from two and made it to the final stage of a third one. So there was some leap of faith that we took in the end, which I can come on to later. But that's kind of the initial story.
Wow, that's incredible. So at what time did you go? You're balancing full-time study, you're building a startup. How was that going in terms of managing your priorities, your momentum? How did you manage that?
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know, it wasn't too difficult, to be perfectly honest. I think the nice thing about studying, particularly at university, is you do have a lot of control over the hours and like when you work, because you only are particularly examined. Some degrees vary, obviously, but for like Jamie and myself, we're both fortunate enough to only really get examined sort of Christmas time, like one batch at Christmas time, another batch in sort of at the end of the year in summer. So you can just grind out some late night sessions at the library and lots of coffee and get your essays or exams revised for, as well as just using AI to work a bit smarter in terms of summarizing content, breaking down efficient methodologies to understand, upload your lecture slides, how's best to understand this content. So I think leveraging AI makes a huge difference and maybe wouldn't have been possible without it.
Amazing.
And also just like the managing the time, I guess.
So fantastic. You're building an AI application, but AI is helping you to run that business as well, which is incredible. And did you come across any unexpected challenges that you didn't see coming?
So many unexpected challenges on a daily basis, I think, but I can highlight a couple big ones. And it's also interesting what you said about using AI to get through the degree whilst also running an AI business, because I joke around with Jamie that if it wasn't for AI, I literally would have nothing, as opposed to obviously the business is completely centered around AI. It managed to support us getting through our degrees, as well as we're a super lean team and the amount of work that we complete within the business. So coding, our designing, our accounting, literally we run everything with AI. So it allows us to complete the work of probably a much bigger team if we didn't have AI.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. And what would you say to graduates? We hear a lot of news out there at the moment that the opportunities for graduates, I think there's one report recently, down by 8%. So graduates are leaving, not able to get jobs. Obviously, you've completely bypassed that issue and created your own company to work for. What would you say to graduates who may be a little bit apprehensive about creating an AI startup or looking to look in that area? What would you say to them?
Well, I think that my take would be that you always have the, I guess, if you want to achieve something, like you definitely can do it. So if that's a graduate role, then I'd like, even if it's getting more difficult to get good grad roles, can still try beg, steal, and borrow to get your way in. But on the counter side to that, do you think, although maybe that you mentioned graduate roles are down 8%, that doesn't necessarily mean there's 8% less opportunities for graduating students, in my opinion. It just means that there's probably that opportunity shifted somewhere else. And I would strongly believe that is in the space of building your own business and startups and projects, with particularly AI is the most obvious sector for that. But particularly, I don't know at the AI Advantage Academy how much you've delved into some of the vibe coding and AI tools to generate applications. But as a good example, like you can use Lovable, like the fastest growing AI startup in the world, I think, to build your own AI platforms without any software development experience. You don't have to know how to code. So all of a sudden you do have the opportunity to build software applications if that's what you're interested in. And you were joking around at the start about building your background with AI. If you want to build marketing material or videos or branding for your business, you can do it all with AI now. And you can almost think of any way to any problem and try to challenge it with AI. And there's
Yeah.
probably a good opportunity there. So I think it may see the graduate schemes may be reducing, but there's so much opportunity in developing startups and technology that there's this, oh, it's not something to be worried about.
Definitely, and I love your attitude of the fact that at the beginning you said you were a bit naive and you possibly weren't creating like your product wasn't perfect, but you actually just stepped out and did it. And I think that's so important for people looking to start their business is A, having the confidence. Yes, you can do it if you're prepared to work hard, and you don't have to launch a completely perfect product to start with. It's about getting it out there, getting the feedback. And that's really crucial. So that's absolutely fantastic. I totally agree with you. The AI opportunity out there is incredible for young people. So what's your vision for My Tender and over the next few years?
We want to be a hugely recognizable name in the bid writing space, as we believe that in 5, 10 years' time, the bid writing industry, all firms that are writing bids will have some sort of AI integration into their team. And we want My Tender IO to be one of those leading providers in the whole of Europe, and if not the whole of the world. So we want to have the easiest to use AI bid writing platform, something that provides so much joy and value to every single person that's using the platform, and providing significant transformation in terms of the economics that the bid teams are operating in and the performance levels that they can achieve.
Brilliant stuff. Well, that's a really nice segue into handing over to you, really. And for the sake of our listeners, if you could take us step by step through exactly what you've created and some of the benefits that it brings, that'd be amazing.
I'll just bring this up.
And there'll be some times for Q&As at the end, guys. I will leave some time at the end for you to ask some questions.
You can see this soon now.
Yeah,
Oops.
we can see your screen.
You can see me typing in the password wrong to my own account. So happy to run everyone through like my tender. I don't know what people's necessary tender writing experience or knowledge is. Hopefully, no one's been too deeply involved in putting together huge tender responses. But the system basically, each user or company will have an account with multiple users on. They can integrate their website and we'll set that up to bring context in to customize their models for them. They can add all of this customization and configuration of their tone of voices, their unique selling points. They can add sort of custom model instructions, which is essentially where they can add their own prompts to train the model to think and respond to questions in a certain way. And they can upload formatting, so they can download branded documents at the back end of the software, and they can integrate their existing bid library. So the first step in our onboarding is basically taking all of your old bids and integrating that onto my tender platform. Then once that's done, you'll have a full bid library, which basically has, for example, case studies, has your basically company information, and all of this information is stored in a huge database, which when a new tender is uploaded into the system, all of this information can basically be regenerated. So there's a cool little area where people can ask questions about any information that's been uploaded into their library. So like big pain point that we found for our customers was just simply retrieving data from large databases. What's our specific policy for X, Y, and Z? And it took up a lot of time. So basically, this is like a custom chat GPT, if you like, where you can put what's our accreditations, and then the system's gone and read our library and retrieve that. The most sort of obviously like the flagship part of our software though is responding to tenders. So you upload basically the documentation into here. Then when that's done, basically you'll get full analysis of all the documents that you've uploaded into the system. So it'll be like a summary, the evaluation criteria is extracted, what the client wants, like the win themes, like that's important to the client's pain points. We'll like, look for potential competitors based on the value, location, services, incumbent provider, basically build a differentiation strategy. And then we'll build like basically a compliance matrix where people can source in within the actual documentation where the different compliance elements are. Or this is not actually released yet and it's not working quite yet. But this is coming out hopefully at the end of the day once the team are happy. But it's basically highlights all the compliance because again, that's a critical area for our customers when they're responding to tenders, is ensuring that it's compliant. Then basically there's some basic customization, which I won't go into, and we'll extract all of the questions out of the tender documents and they can like manage who's answering what. And then each section will have a plan for the user, and then they can generate basically their answers and use our tool basically to let different sections. So if they wanted to, they can pretty much do whatever they want when they're editing. The capabilities are pretty extensive, I'd say. Like you can even, for example, search when you've uploaded your previous documents in your library. We'll extract all of the images and I meta tag them. So if you're looking for an image of, I'm not sure what images I have. Basically, if you are looking for an image, you can source up stuff that you've uploaded in your previous documents and re-input that into your system and the final output. Then everything's sourced as to which document it's come from in your previous library. You can turn on your sources and see which information's used from your previous bids, what's new information, and Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell the full platform. And you can download, literally, you can generate what would have taken you weeks, if not months, of writing. We can do in half an hour, 10 minutes if you don't do much editing. And then you can download that as a fully formatted Word document.
I was going to say, how much time is that saving people? And it's saving them days, if not weeks.
It's obviously the thing is with the sort of bid writing space is the contracts fluctuate in complexity, but if you like, so they may still need a lot of time to get into them, but as a baseline, I could literally take what would have took someone a full 7, 14 days, and we
Mm.
can literally do it in 10, 15 minutes.
That's incredible. Gosh, that must be such a welcome relief to organizations. So that's really fantastic. Thank you so much. And obviously, writing bids is something that organizations do to get finance, etc. So it's a really fundamental part of business growth. But I'm going to open the floor now to our audience to see if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Aaron. Samuel, sorry.
I'd love to ask some questions. I don't know what the procedure is.
Please do go
Yeah.
ahead, Barbara. That'd be amazing.
That was so interesting. Thank you so much, Sam. I was just a couple of questions. What did you actually study for your degree at university then?
I was studying.
Business management. And how relevant was that to what you've gone on to create? Did you use a lot of it, or is this a lot of your own study that you've sort of in AI and stuff that you've done that's contributed to that, would you say, what you've done?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, but obviously there was very little relevance to AI. Like as saying to Emma, like, pretty much Jamie and I, everything was self-taught in terms of the AI aspect. There probably wasn't a ton of crossover even between business management and actually running a business. But then obviously we're a startup, so things are just completely chaotic as opposed to a little bit more go to as things planned. But there's definitely was a lot of valuable lessons that you learn about, I don't know, culture, strategy, different things like that that I've noted down. And but like, university ecosystem itself was such a fantastic place to launch a startup. Like, we were so lucky that they gave us some initial funding and grant money at the start to get things going. They helped connect us with local businesses. We went on a trip to
Wow.
San Francisco that was fully funded by the uni. So they literally, Southampton University, I can't sort of sing their praises enough, really.
Brilliant. And also I just wanted to ask, as you were scaling and you mentioned it was so chaotic, and I really applaud you for just doing it anyway. I think that's what puts a lot of us off. What I'm interested in is you were studying so much on the AI side and to build your solution and everything else. But you also mentioned that you managed to scale, and yet I think a big problem also is not having the systems and infrastructure to scale because you're so busy building the solution. How did you manage that, and what systems did you find most helpful to help build so you weren't building on several different platforms and everything talked to each other and you kept the costs as low as possible? And how did you manage that whole process?
I don't know if I'm well versed enough to comment on scaling advice, because that is definitely growing pains that we're experiencing right now. Is going sort of we're definitely experiencing that classic startup growth curve. So the scaling is just getting even faster, and managing all the users and getting everyone's invoicing and accounts done properly, and like, customer onboardings whilst trying to improve the product, as you said, and still scale faster is challenging. So I don't really think I've got any good answers. I think it's just focusing on the most important parts as much as possible, and really being strict with your prioritization, as well as a co-founding team, I think is probably a huge asset as well. If you do have the luxury of co-founders, you can have, we had, for example, Nicholas originally and now Jamie, both managing sort of the product side. And then my brother was doing a lot of the marketing and operation stuff, and I was doing like a lot of the sales. And then that just kind of that spreading makes it a lot more manageable, as opposed to if you're doing it yourself, scaling. I don't know how anyone does that.
think that's the problem as well. And you go down a certain route because you're ignorant at certain stages, and you think, oh, this is the ideal platform, and they're trying to sell you something, and then you realize it doesn't talk to that. And if you want to, it sucks you, and then you've got to pay a lot more money to stay on them, and it's such a hassle to change that you think, oh, I'll just pay it. So I was in a Institute of Sales Management training, and the guy was really good because he'd had 20 years experience, and he said, look, Zoho is the best platform across all things, because you can start free, but you have the ability to scale, and then you can maybe start pay a little bit, but at least all the systems talk to each other and everything else. So I was just interested to hear how you manage that, because I can see that being a big hurdle. I can see people being interested in my business, but I can see myself but putting the brakes on, because not being able to handle all the big or the not having the systems set up to cope with it. So it's
I do think you make a good point about having your systems talk to each other. I do think if you get a good tech stack, it can make a huge difference. So I don't know exactly what your process would be, but I can speak from our experience. So we have Zero doing all of our accounting, which is integrated with Stripe, which is our payment system. So even those two alone, we literally just send out a link, although it has changed with enterprise customers a bit. But in the initial days, that would just send out a link, people would sign up, pay their subscription fee. That was integrated with our accounting software, and we literally could just download our like sort of relevant documentation at the back end. So that's like a great tech stack, and you can then integrate that with your CRM and set up some basic automations. So then you have it all monitored. But I'd say like a good CRM and a good sort of, like Zero and Stripe probably get you pretty far. And then I don't know if you're building software, but if you have Cursor, that is another tool that just makes a big difference, but it's very specific to software development.
Oh, it's really interesting. Sorry I've just got one quick question. You're talking about apps, and I've done a bit of research on Replit, and I just wondered what your opinions were on that.
So I've not used Replit, but I have heard everyone banging on about Replit, saying it's literally the best thing ever. So I think, and they're pretty credible people, so I assume it's pretty good. I think they're quite similar to, basically it's the same as Cursor, which I use. I use one of their competitors, I think.
How are you spelling that? Cursor?
Literally the same as a mouse cursor.
Thank you. I'll let somebody else have a go now. Thank you so much.
Can you just repeat what you said, the software that you mentioned, and Barbara wrote it?
Zoho, Zoho. It's
Yeah.
integrated. And this guy is really good. It was my tutor's best salesperson in the UK, and he's done businesses, lots of different kinds over 20 years. And that was worth just doing that course for that nugget, because he did say that. And I have researched it, and actually it is very good, because all the systems, the finance, even CRM, everything, all talk to each other. So I think it's very soul destroying when you start down a certain path, put a lot of effort into something, only to find that you have to upgrade, or gets too expensive and you have to change it and duplicate it all. So I know HubSpot and things do the same, but they're quite expensive. So when you're starting out and you're trying to keep the costs down, I think that's invaluable. So
There's another one. I'm just having a look at that, Barbara. There is another one. To be fair, Zoho does look at potentially a bit better, but I know another free one called ClickUp. You might have.
oh yes, one of my clients uses that. Yeah,
That's
Are you
supposed to be.
carry on.
I use Zoho just for mails. You guys use it for integration? Sorry, you're talking about Zoho, the platform for mails, right? Or is that something I'm missing?
Yeah, no, Zoho, you can use it for all your systems in business. And as you scale, you can pay, you start paying for the higher levels, but it's not too expensive. But you only need to pay as you grow, basically. So the first level, when you're starting up, is free, which is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Bruce, you had your hand up.
Very impressive. Just a couple of questions, and apologies if I've missed this, but presumably you don't allow two organizations who are competing with each other for the same tender to get into your system, or how do you manage that? And how far are your systems also used by people who are evaluating tenders?
Yeah, it's a very topical question actually, Bruce. But the first one, we do have direct competitors both using the platform for most likely this literally the same bids, same tenders. But the way we get around that is our system is only designed to help you get from A to B faster, as opposed to like a single product, if that makes sense. So competitor B, they're gonna have their whatever their final bids would have looked like anyway. We're not saying that will change like what your final bid would have looked like that much. Like it still look the same. It's still the bid professional's job to control the narrative of what you're writing about. It's not our job as my tender to like narrative and the strategic side of what you're doing. That's still the human's role. Our job is just allow them to get to like where they wanted to get to much faster. So their bids would have looked the same before AI. They're going to look similar with AI. They hopefully get to that like finish a lot faster than they would have without it. And obviously with that more time, they can write better and more about what they want to talk about from a strategic point of view. And the second question was on like the side. Yeah, I'm just speaking with Planet Yam. We want to keep laser focused, like as I'm sure you guys know, about the importance of not like being everyone, but we're meeting later with a huge construction portal interested in like to evaluate tenders come to them, like responses.
Good
You're
luck.
welcome. Cheers, Bruce.
Anybody else got any questions? Grant?
Quick question, yeah. Well done. You've all seen an opportunity and opportunity, grabbed it and found an excellent solution. In ability to do that, are you looking for others at the same time, or are you just saying, right, I'm going to focus on this. This is our business, and we're just going to grow this, or obviously got the capability there. You have to tell me what you're doing because that might be top secret. But I mean, is what thinking? Do you look to beyond and see great other opportunities as well?
Yes, another like really topical because like that's again like definitely something I'm probably not speak because it's like definitely a problem like like which is on like there are a lot of like different, I guess, mini pivots and different directions that we can get drawn in. Like people want commercial aspects of their bids, can help do the estimating and pricing, which like, is and thing is other businesses are like, can you do X, Y, and Z? So that's the first problem is like all the advice on like that says to just be laser focused on one thing and that can in our specific space can write the best bids, not do the best pricing or do that is the one that will win. So I think right now we're trying to be as focused as we physically can be, whilst also not being, potential other opportunities that are useful, like should valuable to our customers. So I do think it's difficult to try and balance that between focus and and then the second part is like also like that I got some advice the other day. It's like when we were in San Francisco, all the American startup-y people were saying you've always got to be thinking of the £1 billion business idea of how you're gonna, industry. But at the same time, you also, which is like, so we try to think of that, but at the same time, we'd be thinking very pragmatically on how we can build the most value into our customers today and tomorrow. So, and the £1 billion business idea just gets in the way of that, to be honest, in my opinion. So I think it's difficult. It's like to balance everything. So yeah, I appreciate that kind of abstract, but it's probably how I feel about
No,
Yeah,
that's
I get that.
curious. Yeah, thank you.
Almost so many opportunities out there with AI, isn't it? And like you say, because you're using AI as well, it's you've be really disciplined in terms of prioritizing where you're going and keeping your focus. Even as a small business, I find that as well. Anybody else questions? I have got one more I'd like to ask. You got your £350,000 investment, and you spoke about one of your first recruits was a technical person. So a couple of things really. How did you go around recruiting your technical person? What skills were you looking for, and how easy was it to find somebody that met that? And then secondly, how did you prioritize the investment? What was the most important thing for you to invest in at the beginning of your journey?
Yeah, that well, in terms of like finding the person, Nicholas, I mean, like as naivety about launching the product. I mean, literally found Nicholas online and went into London to meet him. He seemed pretty cool, and we were like, yeah, like you can business, and literally just like he was like that after like one quick. But times that he's been fantastic and really incredible. I don't know if that was a bit lucky or what happened there, but we found him on Upwork, and we did look, to be honest, for a very long time before that. Like we looked at masters and PhD AI students at Southampton University, but we found they didn't quite have the experience, even though like academically very didn't quite have the skill set from being in a software development team on quite how to get a product out to market. So we realized we needed someone that's actually kind of built software platforms before, as opposed to more just theoretically well versed. We then went to like Upwork and looked for like 2 weeks. We said what we were trying to do wasn't possible. Um, and then that's like along the way, someone that said like the budget, we were looking for like the best person at the time, like sort of 20 an hour type thing. And then luckily I met someone that said like what you build, need to be increase what the pricing that you're doing, because you're just not going to get anyone at $25 an hour that can build anything of good quality. So we put in like the most person we could find on Upwork and interviewed the people in that bracket. And yeah, one of them was Nicholas, who was the only one that said it was possible. So we met up with him, and he's done a film and was a really, really great add to the team.
Amazing. What skill set did he have? What made him different?
Probably just like his actual attitude and openness, and like the fact that he was happy not to like be paid, and like was happy to join like and
Right.
take equity in the business. Like most, you're a startup just with an idea at that stage, literally nothing. And be someone that's wanting to charge 10, 20 grand for a project, have you in this future business, it's going to be great. And they're like,
Yeah.
kind of look at you like you're crazy. The fact that he was, actually what we were doing and thought what we had was good, and I believed in our idea, was probably the biggest thing. And he also had incredible experience. Like he's led very corporate teams in a very similar region to what we're looking to build.
Amazing. Great approach. So equity in the business rather than paying them. And like you say, for somebody to agree to that type of contract means they really believe in what they're doing. So almost that's quite good, because for if they believe that they can do what they've said they're going to do, because they're literally the success for their payments. That's a super interesting approach that you took. And then in terms of sort of prioritizing the rest of the money, what's been the priority for you with that investment?
Yeah, we've been to be somewhat I don't know. A lot of people say their first investment, like kind of,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is very difficult, because to get all your spends spot on. But we've been kind of mostly focused on investing and make the product better. And I think we have a good gauge of that, because we do truly believe, I think every business has their philosophy, but I think ours is that if we have an incredible product, then you don't worry about too much else, because the value that you provide is so great that it doesn't really, nothing else matters if your product's amazing, to a certain extent, obviously. But yeah, so we've been investing in staff, people, tools that can make the product better, and it's a range of different things. Um, but yeah, mostly it, well as like a bit more sales support to grow a bit faster. So brought in like a lady, Caitlin, who's been like fantastic. She's really good. Yeah, a bit of stuff, but mostly it goes into the product, to be honest.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming along today. And anybody that wants interested in bids can go along and sign up for a subscription. So do you want to talk about the accessibility to the product? How does somebody join?
Yeah, I mean, we don't like any trials, but we do offer like a 30-day money back guarantee, which I'm interested. But yeah, genuinely anyone like write bids or is aware of people that are writing bids, then would be, love to have a conversation and see if we can support you guys.
Great stuff. And I'll put your links all in the YouTube video at the bottom. Okay, thanks so much everyone coming. I am going to put the report onto YouTube, but obviously thank you so much, Samuel, for your time today. It's been really interesting to get a bit more of an insight and really inspiring, actually, your enthusiasm and yeah, just the way you said, if you want to do something, you can, and that's the reality with AI. So we really appreciate you coming along, and good luck in the future. I'm sure we're going to see some exciting things from you.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks everyone for
Okay,
coming.
bye.